and Trisha Goyer here, and I am so excited to be talking with another author about another amazing book. And I'm here with Karen Witemeyer. So, welcome, Karen.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so we are talking about, and it releases tomorrow, which is super
Correct.
exciting. So, your new book, Fairest of the Heart, and this cover is amazing. I'm just going to hold it up for a second and let you see because you might be able to guess what it's about. But before we talk about the book, Karen, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I live in Abilene, Texas, which is one of the reasons why all of my books take place in Texas. I was actually born in California, came to Texas to go to college at Abilene Christian University, met my husband here, and just never left. And so I've been sucked into the Texas culture, and I've just really been very fascinated to learn all the multifacets of this huge state. And so it's had a lot of influence on my writing
Mm,
that way. So published my first book in 2010, and so still going strong and excited to be here today.
I love it. Okay, so I grew up in California also,
Oh,
and
great!
now I'm in Arkansas. Where were you in California?
Little town called Lompoc. It's
Okay,
about an hour away from Santa Barbara.
okay. Yep, I was way north. I
Yeah.
was up in Weed, California, by the border of
Yes,
Oregon. So yeah, and the South is a totally different thing. I
it
remember when we
is.
first moved down here, I'm like, why are these people so nice and smiling at me? And yeah, so but I love it, and I love that you just embrace it because there is so much to write about Texas, and especially going back in history, there's so much. But this is a fun new series, so I'm going to show the cover again because like her outfit is so beautiful and it is reminiscent of maybe a fairy tale that we all know. So tell us a little bit about the story and then where you got the idea from.
So, as you might have guessed from the cover, this is a Western retelling of Snow White. And, as a little girl, this is going to date me, but I had one of those plastic Fisher Price record players,
Mhm.
and I had all of the Disney collection, that would read the story and would sing all the songs. And I was enchanted. I loved it. And so, I think really the whole reason I started to appreciate romance novels was because of the fairy tales that I grew up loving as a child. Just that idea of happily ever after, true love conquers all. If you're fighting for right, you're going to win in the end. All of those elements that I just adored. I think that played into not only what I loved to read, but then when I branched out into writing, what I wanted to write as well. And all of my books up to this point have been focused on Texas heroes
Mhm.
and very, cowboy forward and all that kind of stuff, which I love also. But I thought, how fun would it be to take fairy tales and mesh them with cowboys? Because I've seen a lot of fairy tale retellings, like in medieval
Yeah,
times
yeah, I think
or
most of them have been like medieval type books.
yeah,
Yeah.
or contemporary even, or even some fantasy, but I hadn't really ever seen any in an historical Western setting. So I thought, maybe this would be a fun new way to give it a fresh spin.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Penelope Snow because she's so sweet and look at her dress. I mean, it's just so perfect.
So Penelope Snow was abandoned as a baby. She was left on the steps of
Mhm.
a girls' school in Chicago, and she was taken in and raised by the cook of that school. So she was there on charity, basically. And so she never really felt like she had a true family of her
Mhm.
own, never really a place that she belonged. She has a great work ethic and basically just believes if you work hard enough, eventually something good will happen. But she just had one problem after another. She takes a job because of a scandal that kind of erupted with this traveling actress, and so she's her personal maid and endures a lot of negativity there, and ends up abandoned again out on her own and
Mhm.
is taken in by a group of seven retired drovers at the Diamond D Ranch, which are really fun dwarf wannabes. So I had a
Yes.
lot of fun with them.
So and then Narcissa, you mentioned her. She has is used to getting everything she wants and being the most beautiful, and she has her mindset on definitely what she wants, and that is the best of life. And I was just going to read this section because it is so fun. So it's she's oh, well, I'm not going to give too much. I don't want to give too much away, but let me just tell you because it just shows you how it's so reminiscent of the fairy tale just in the things that she does in her interactions. So this is Narcissa. So it says, like any good miner, Narcissa knew where to dig, how to plan, to scout on investors who would provide the funds she required, funds that would take her to Europe, where she would play the most important role of her career. American Harris, a widow perhaps, wealthy, refined. All of society would be her stage. Men would flock to her, desire her, but her heart would beat for only one, her true love, an elderly nobleman, or a ridiculously rich merchant, a gentleman in want of a wife, a grand beauty to impress his associates and grace his home, his very large, very opulent home, a place for her to live happily ever after. Narcissa stroked the edge of the mirror as if it were a pet. And I just love that so much because it's so like it's set in the old west, but it still has that reminiscent feel that you could almost picture, all the Disney movies and all the different adaptations that we've seen over time. It's fun in a new setting and a new place, but it's still very reminiscent of the original stuff, which I think you did a very good job with that.
Thank you very much. Narcissa, she has some issues, and it was a little bit tricky writing in her point of view because she's not a sweet person.
Yes.
And but I really wanted to play up that mirror, mirror, kind of thing. So she doesn't say mirror, mirror on the wall, but
Mhm.
she is very fond of her mirror, and she's checking herself
She's
often in her
stroking
mirrors.
it.
That's
Yes.
right. And she admires herself and knows how to put her best attributes forward. But if you pay attention, she's also very self-conscious. So she's starting to get a little older,
Mhm.
and anytime she sees a little line, it's like a
And plucks the
catastrophe.
gray hair
Yes,
out.
yes. So it's the bad side of vanity and what happens when you no longer have that beauty to hold on to.
Yeah, and there's a comment, the drovers were so endearing. It's like Penelope had 7 grandpas. So I love, and this commenter said, absolutely loved Ferris of Heart. So yeah, I mean, all the good elements are there, and the fun, and the humor, and then the romance, and then you have this very Narcissa's very into herself, and then you just want the best for Penelope. It's so fun. Now we haven't mentioned Titus yet, so tell us a little bit about Titus.
Well, instead of a prince, since we didn't really have princes in Texas, he is the Texas Ranger. And so I thought he would be a fun character to have play the princely role. He does not like beautiful women. He
Mhm.
lost a brother because of some manipulation by a beautiful woman, and so he distrusts beauty by at all costs. And so he doesn't really trust Penelope at the beginning.
Yeah.
In fact, he's led to believe that she's the main suspect in this jewel ring, this jewel thief that's going on. There's missing jewels, and so he's considering her as the main suspect. But the more he gets to know her and the more he gets to realize it's not a facade, this innocent persona is not fake, it's actually genuine of who she really is. He begins to soften and begins to think, maybe this is somebody that is has a depth to her that I don't expect in beauty.
Yeah, and I love that you even talked about, I think it's maybe the beginning, the first couple pages, that beauty has been almost a curse to Penelope because people won't
Yes.
look at deeper. So talk a little bit more about that too.
Sure. She is a very voluptuous, beautiful girl,
Mhm,
but because of the nature of her standing in society, being in service, that is a hindrance to her.
mhm, mhm.
If the men of the house look at her in a certain way, she's going to lose her job.
Yeah.
And so she does everything she can to minimize drawing attention. She wears shapeless dresses. She keeps her head down. She does all she can to avoid the limelight at all costs, which is a very contrast against what the villainess, what
Mhm.
Narcissa is all about. She's all about manipulating and drawing men in and all of that. So I really kind of wanted to have a juxtaposition there of the beauty that the world says is a good type of beauty and the beauty that our Lord is representative for. So in First Peter it talks about the beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit.
Mhm.
That is what inspired Penelope's character, is that beauty of that gentle and quiet spirit.
Yeah. So which was the easiest character to write once you got in there? Was it easy writing Penelope, or did you have more fun with Narcissa? Like, which one was kind of the easy one, and was there another one that was kind of more difficult to write?
I I don't know if this is gonna reflect poorly on me or not. It was actually more fun to write the villain's point of view just
Mhm.
because I don't get to be that snarky in
Right.
real life, and I really got to crank up the snark meter with with
Yes.
her. So I really did I had fun writing her point of view, but it was also kind of an eye-opening thing of we need to be careful what messages we're sending in
Mhm.
society because our society is so much about um, outward appearance
Yeah.
and how that's all it's all about lust. It's not about what actual true love really is. And so
Mhm.
I really wanted to show the folly of following that path.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think also because she is more one dimensional. I mean, even though there is other stuff going on, but basically, when you get to Penelope, there's so much like you go deeper as you get to know
Yes.
her more, and so
Yes.
that I guess that is more a complicated, and complex character to write because you do want to show yes she's beautiful, but there's so much more going on, and you just see that with her interaction with others, her care for others, and that really comes through. So that's neat too that you could see just that depth of character
Yeah.
in Penelope. Yeah. So she's strong, but in different ways, definitely.
She
In diff-
is. She is. She has that inner strength that's kind of the quiet strength that you don't expect. But with all she's endured over the course of her life, she had to be strong, or otherwise she would have made it this far.
yeah. So how fun was it to add the old west element into this fairy tale that we are familiar with, but then bring new light, like the Drovers, like to switch everything over to this old west setting.
I had so much fun recreating the 7 dwarfs with these 7 retired cowboys. It was that was my favorite part of the whole
Yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah,
So, we have the classic Disney, 7 dwarfs with, Sneezy and Dopey and Doc and Happy and, all these. Well, I wanted to take those characters and create Texas versions of them.
hmm
And so we have a grumpy character, we have a sleepy character, we have a poor guy that battles hay fever all the time, and
yes,
so those are all represented, but I had fun trying to match the names to some of them. So, for instance, Dusty is our sneezy character who's,
hmm
got hay fever, and then of course we have a doc. So the doctor is the one that kind
yeah.
of runs the ranch, and so that's Doc. And then bashful, we have a man named Coy, who is a synonym for bashful. So he's the one that blushes easily and tries to kind of hang out in the background, but he's always cooking and trying to help everybody out and that kind of thing. And so I had a lot of fun, especially with Jeb, who is my grumpy character, and Angus, who is my sleepy character.
Yeah.
And they go at each other all the time, and having that banter just made me smile. And I'm hoping if it makes me smile, that it makes the readers smile as well.
And it's like it's uplifting. I mean, it's just. I mean, you cannot from the first page you cannot help to smile because you just see. I don't know. They just come to life, and it's these fun setting and these new characters, and then there's these twists and what's yeah. So it is. It's very a fun read, and I think a lot of people there's times in our lives we definitely just want that lighter read, that more fun
Yeah.
read. We don't want to be so depressed, and there are. I mean, there's conflict that happens, but
Mhm.
it's definitely a lighter, funner, joyous read to get wrapped up in.
Guaranteed happy ending.
There we go. Guaranteed happy ending. Yes. Yeah. Happily that the series is Texas Ever After. And I love even on the back cover copy it says once upon a time in Texas. And so yeah, you gotta have a happy ever after ending
Yes, you
with this.
do.
All right. But wait, there's more
Ooh.
because this is only the first book in this series. So tell us more about what you have in the works.
Absolutely. So I'm currently working on the rewrites of book 2, and hopefully we'll have those done in about a week.
Ooh.
But book 2 is going to be a Cinderfella story. So it's going to take Cinderella and do a gender swap on it. But I also wanted to do something a little bit different. It's not going to follow the same storyline quite as carefully as the Snow White
Okay.
one did in the first book, mainly because I feel really bad for stepmoms. Because in fairy tales, they
Mhm.
really get the raw end of the deal. And there are some wonderful, godly stepmothers out there who make a huge difference in the lives of their children.
Aw.
And so I wanted to redeem the stepmother in this story. So the stepmother is not the villain in this story. In fact, because we have the Cinderfella, he's the one with the stepmom, and he
Mhm.
has two stepbrothers, and he's basically trying to support them. So he's working everything he can do to try to support his family after his father passes, and so she is really the one that has always believed in him and loves him just as
Aw.
if she was his, he was her own, and never treats him any differently than, her two natural children and all of that. So I really wanted to redeem the
Mhm.
stepmother. And so we have a new villain, and I'm not going to give anything away because it's kind of a surprise at the
Yeah.
end. So it'll be kind of fun to see if you can guess who the new Cinderfella villain is.
Oh, okay.
So,
Do you have a title that you can share, or is it similar?
yes, if
Okay.
the boot fits. So,
Oh, I
thanks to
love
Woody
it.
from Toy Story for that inspiration.
That is perfect. That is
It
like
is,
a
it's
perfect.
perfect for the Western Cinderella,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is his love interest like? Can you give us a hint of
So
that?
she's the daughter of the resident cattle king. So you have a cattle
Oh,
baron
okay.
who, is very
Mm.
wealthy, owns, half the county or whatever. And she's been away at school and she comes back, and dad is trying to marry her off, and she's like, I don't want to be married off to some guy that, just wants me for, what I can offer as far as, money and success. And so she's searching for someone of true character. And so, of
Mm.
course, it opens with a boot left behind at a ball, and
I love it.
so
Oh my gosh, this is
goes
gonna be
from
so
there.
fun. Okay,
So, yeah.
so book 3, can you tell us that one?
Book 3, this title is not the official title yet. We haven't decided what that will be,
Okay.
but my working title is Riding with Miss Hood. And so it's
Mm.
going to be a mashup of Little Red Riding Hood and Sleeping Beauty. So it'll be kind of a
So
little
cool.
bit, it has Red Riding Hood elements, but a lot of Sleeping Beauty backstory. And there's that ticking clock of when she turns a certain
Uh-huh.
age, she's going to have to do something, and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be fun trying to mesh those two together. I'm maybe a third of the way into that story. And so I'm having fun writing that one. And then I'm hoping after those three are done to be able to do either a novella or maybe a short novel for Beauty and the Beast, because that's my
Mhm.
absolute favorite
Yes.
fairy tale. I think a lot of my stories have hints of Beauty and the Beast in it already. And so it'll be fun just to do a good old Western retelling of that one. So we'll see how
Oh,
that goes.
that'll be awesome, and a comment said, "I can't wait for If the Boot Fits. The gender swap is genius. I'm sure in your capable hands, Karen Witemeyer, it will be amazing." So,
Yay!
I love it so much, and it was so fun because, when we were announcing that I was gonna be interviewing you, Martha asked, "What is your favorite book by Karen?" And there was like, "I can't pick a favorite. I love all her books." So, I mean, there's so many readers that just love and that cherish you and love your books. And so it's so fun to see that you are now taking these books and just continuing on to give them what they love.
I have the best readers in the world. They're just great, and very loyal and supportive, and I couldn't ask for more. It's just fabulous.
That is awesome. Okay, someone else says Sleeping Beauty is one of my favorites. A mashup with Little Red Riding Hood. I can't wait. So
Yay!
yeah, everyone, yay, awesome. Okay, so like we mentioned before, this book releases tomorrow. So it'd be awesome. You could go pre-order it. It's already available for pre-order, and then it'll pop up in the morning. If you are ordering on Kindle, it'll be there when you wake up. It's
Like
like magic.
magic.
It's like a fairy wand. Or it be in your inbox or your mailbox in a couple days.
That's
And
right.
yeah, and it's so important. I think I've said this before, but when you pre-order a book, it just lets retailers know that this is something that people want, and then they'll get more copies, and then get those early reviews up is really important too.
It
And
makes a
I
big
love how
difference.
yeah you talk about you have the best readers, so it just really helps people. Like, why do I have to pre-order? Can I just get it whenever? Yes, you can get it whenever, but it does help the author if you pre-order. Yeah. Oh, and Misty said, "Beauty and the Beast is my favorite too." Oh, I love that.
I mean, when you have a heroine who is a bookaholic, I mean, that just makes for a good story right there.
That library. I
Yes.
mean, the library, yeah. Oh, and someone said, that, I can't see if it's a he or she, but got the copy of Fairest of the Heart today. So they got it
Yay.
early. They
See,
must have
sometimes when
got
you pre-order, you get it early.
yeah, so it also says okay, here's another one. So from Baker Bookhouse. So Baker
Yes.
Bookhouse already got them out there. Good job.
Since it's still a day before release, they offer it at 40% off. So there you
Yes,
go.
they're awesome. I love that so much. Okay, so you have these stories. Is there other ones that you're working on that you have just in your mind, ideas, or are you just focusing on this for now?
Focusing on this for now. I tend to just kind of be tunnel vision when I'm working on a project and try not to think too much about what might be coming next. I had a book that was kind of a different, separate from this. There was a multi-author series called In Her Sights, which has a
Mm.
gal who meets Annie Oakley and learns how to
Oh,
shoot
fun.
in order to get her man. So, so that was kind of fun too.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so some questions that people wanted to know when I said, what can I ask Karen? What is your writing process like, and how do you kind of develop your stories?
I am a edit as I go writer,
Mm.
so I need to get an idea of the story at the start. I'm not a super plotter, but I like to know basically who my characters
Mhm.
are, what the main conflict is going to be, maybe two or three big pivotal moments that will move the plot forward. That'll happen during the course of the story, and once I have that kind of the bones figured
Right.
out, then I just sit down and kind of pants it from there. So I have to have that roadmap, and then I stay to the roadmap pretty carefully. I don't very often, veer off to the side and go crazy with something else. Every once in a while, I might take a little detour, but usually it stays pretty close to that. And because I like to edit as I go, I write very slowly. I write
Mm.
one slow, careful draft, and then I'm done. So I write one chapter, I send it off to my critique partners, they give me feedback, and I just go chapter by chapter. Usually I write one chapter a week, and then by the end of 40 weeks, I have a book. And so I turn that in, and of course, it goes through some more editorial stages with the publisher and all of that. But I don't write like some do, where they just get a whole bunch of ideas down, and then they go back and they edit and they refine and they add
Mhm.
layers and all that. I'm very linear, and so I start at the beginning and write one slow, careful draft.
I love how everyone's so different.
Mhm.
Because I have a basic idea, but then I write a little bit in this chapter, then I might jump to the end and write a little bit there, and then when I have it's kind of like a skeleton, but it's all in chunky layers. I mean, chunky pieces all over. Then I'll go back and do my slow, careful travel.
Mhm.
But so it's just so interesting how everyone has their different process, and that's okay. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, then there's a comment, "How can we pray for you?" Which that's a great question.
Oh, that is wonderful. I need prayer every day, I tell you. Um, so I always would appreciate prayers that I will write things that glorify God. That is my
Mm.
most important mission. And just also right now, I'm in the middle of writing book 3, rewriting book 2, launching book 1, and I'm about to leave on vacation. And so
Yeah,
things are a little crazy and stressful at the moment. So prayers for peace and for productivity would be wonderful. Thank you
yeah,
very
and
much for asking that.
yeah, I love that question. I think that's the thing is that it's not just the book that you're writing, but then you get edits back, and then you have the book that you're releasing, you're doing interviews, and you're like, "Okay, what happened in that book?" And 'cause your mind often is 2 books later
Yes,
with different
exactly.
characters, and, so it is but it is, like, it's the best job ever,
Hmm.
it's a challenge and balance, and so I love that their prayer for just, be able to keep all the balls up in the air while you're juggling it.
Yes.
Okay, another question is, okay, well, I have that one, I'll ask in a minute. Okay, what was your favorite book to write? Did you have one that was a favorite?
Ooh,
I know it's like
favorite to
asking a favorite
write.
child, but
It is. It is. Um, I think I'm gonna go with one of my novellas, In
Mhm.
for a Surprise. I think I love humor. I love to laugh, and my shorter books tend to be a little funnier than my longer books. And In for a Surprise, I think, in my opinion, which who knows if it is what readers think, but was one of my funniest books. And so because of that, it was a lot of fun to write. And so I had a lot of banter between the characters, a lot of the heroine had atrocious taste, and the hero was just trying to help her as best he could, and it was it was so much fun. And so I'll say that was the most fun to write because it made me laugh as I was writing it.
And that's the best when you're either laughing or crying or like
Mhm.
if you're emotion there's an emotional response and hopefully, which usually is the case, that the readers are going to have that too.
Right,
So
right.
that that is so fun. Okay, here's another one. So what advice would you give to writers who hope to write in maybe the Old West, or even if they're interested in a fairy tale? Like what advice, or retelling, what advice would you give to them?
For writing in the West, do your research.
Mm.
I grew up watching, the 50s westerns that were replaying in the 70s when I was a kid. And I grew up with a very Hollywood vision of what the West
Mhm.
was. It wasn't actually accurate. So I had
Yes.
to go back and do a lot of actual research to figure out, what was it really like back then. So do your research. But as far as fairy tale retellings, find something unique. So you were talking about how I hadn't seen very many that had been done in a Western setting. So that was something that was maybe a little bit fresh and different. So
Mhm.
find something unique about where you connect with the characters and give it that spin that's unique to you.
Yeah, I love that so much. Okay, another question I love to ask is what books have you enjoyed reading in Christian fiction? It could be recent, it could be some of your old-time favorites, but what are some of your favorite ones or ones that you've enjoyed?
Sure. So, okay, as I mentioned that I love to laugh. So I
Mhm.
love funny I should say humorous historicals to get the alliteration going.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading A Match in the Making right now by Jen Turano. Loving
Mhm.
it. It's just, she has such a fun, quirky sense of humor. And so I
She
enjoy all of
does.
her books.
Yes, she is I'm like, I never would have came up with this in a million years.
And
Just
she's
like
like
some of
that
the
in person too.
I
She's just,
I've interviewed her before and I'm like, I could totally see this.
yes, she is wonderful. I love her. Another favorite of mine is The Mistletoe Countess by
Mm,
Pepper Basham.
I have heard so many good things about that. I need to
It was
read.
so good. So good. I think that was my favorite book of, when was it? 22 that I read it. I can't remember. 21 or 22, but I absolutely loved it. And it was a book loving heroine. So you have kind of, it's not a Beauty and the Beast, but you have a Belle type heroine in that
Mhm.
story, and really loved it. And it was cute and it had a mystery, and it was a lot of fun. So those are
Yeah.
two of my favorites.
So do you read like when a lot of people say when they're writing, they don't read a lot of books. Do you find yourself like having to put it off, or is it like still something you turn to and just find yourself having to get into other people's books?
Before I started writing, I could read about a book a day.
Wow.
Now I read, if I'm lucky, 1 or maybe 2 books a month. It's
Mhm.
really sad to me that I don't get a chance to read as much anymore, but I just don't have the time. And so because of that, I am pretty picky. I wanna make sure that if I pick up a book that I'm really going to enjoy it. And so that's one of the reasons why I go back to those trusted authors that, I love over and over again, and put those at the top of the pile. And then, hopefully I'll get to some others. And I have in my Facebook group called the Posse, we have a reading challenge every month, and we come up with. I get their input, and we come up with some great topics to challenge us to read something
Oh,
that may be a little bit different than what we usually read. We have fun with it. Of course, this month it's a book with a fairy tale trope because it's my
yeah.
group, but
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, exactly.
but it has challenged me to get out of my reading habits, and so that's been good for me too, to kind of stretch a little bit and reach out and read some that I may not have picked up on my own. So that's
I
fun too.
love that. Now tell us about that group because I know one of the other questions was, how can we support you? And I know being part of your group is a wonderful way to support you.
Yes. So, Facebook group called The Posse. There's a link to it on my website,
Okay.
KarenWitemeyer.com. You can find it there as well. You can just search for it too. This is where I spend the vast majority of my social media time
Mhm.
is in this group. I'm there 5 days a week. We post every day. We have group activities that we do together. I get my posse to help me brainstorm my characters, the names, what
Oh,
they're going
I
to look
love
like.
it. Yeah.
They've named horses and dogs and people, and they helped me come up with my seven dwarf character names. And so it's a community where we can interact with one another. They support me, I support them. We do fun things together. It's a really fun group of bookish people who love to share about books that they are enjoying.
I love it. There's some of your posse is here because 'cause they're like, "Yes, it's a
Yay!
fun group. It's great." And then someone else said that their favorite is Head in the Clouds, is their favorite.
That's another book loving heroine.
Yeah.
Somehow I seem to write book loving heroines.
I know. It's so funny that all of a sudden I think I have this unique character, then I'm like, "Wait, this is sounding really familiar now." Oh, and so, okay, Karen, where can people go to connect with you? We mentioned the posse, but where can they
Mhm.
go to connect with you and then to find out more about everything that you're doing?
So probably the best place is my website, KarenWitemeyer.com. And of course, it'll have all the information about my books. But I also have a lot of bonus material and kind of fun
Mm,
behind the scenes stuff that's available there as well. You can contact me, send me an email through there. Also, I do have a presence on Goodreads, so that's another way that I love it when people will ask me questions through that Goodreads.
mhm.
Ask the author, so that's fun too. I don't have much of a presence on places like Pinterest or LinkedIn or even Instagram. I really don't do much over there. So the posse and on Facebook is probably where, if you want to interact with me on a daily basis, that's the best place.
I love it, and someone said that you've even dedicated books to your posse. The
I have, because they've been instrumental in helping me come up with some of the ideas. So
Oh, I love it. Well, Karen, thank you so much for being here today. This has been awesome. Your book is so fun. I know people are gonna love it, and remember, tomorrow it's coming out, so you could pre-order it today, but
yay!
thank you, Karen, so much.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Alri